the next question is this coming. If there is no conflict, as what you have discussed just now, between Christianity and science, does this mean that the Bible is scientifically reliable? What is the relationship between the Bible and science?
Now we have to go a little bit more detail.
Okay.
If science and the Bible supposedly conflict,
Okay.
then you ask the question, what is science teaching? What is the Bible's teaching also? So let's begin with what is science first of all.
Okay.
Yeah. In our imaginary world, people go around and tell us science is absolutely reliable. It gets unquestioned truth because we have the scientific method. What is this scientific method? So you can imagine this guy in his white coat, in the lab. So he begins by observation, and then he describes the phenomena objectively. In other words, not just how he feels, but what he's observed. And then, based on many of these observations and measurements, then he formulate a hypothesis. A hypothesis is a provisional truth claim pending verification or falsification. Then, if you have a hypothesis, you must test the hypothesis. Then you test the hypothesis. The hypothesis could be confirmed by the experiment. It may disconfirm it, or it may say you need modification. And if there's modification, it goes to a backward loop to a new hypothesis, which will need a new set of testing again. Now, apparently, through this repeated cycle, then finally you arrive at the refined, proven hypothesis, then you call theory, So when you say something is hypothetical, that means not confirmed yet. Theory got scientific background. Now, this is supposed to be the unchallengeable and totally reliable science. But I would say many of us feel that this is an idealized science, not real science.
It can still be falsified, isn't it, the theory?
Some theories cannot be falsified. Psychoanalysis cannot be falsified. According to Kairos-podcast, communism cannot be falsified. He wrote this famous demarcation of science, and the evolution cannot be satisfied.
But if that's the case, it cannot be falsified. It cannot be scientific, isn't it?
If the demarcation, according to Kairos-podcast, is what he called falsification principle, that would determine whether it's a real scientific statement or not. On the evolution, apparently there were some further debates. But generally, there's a view. But the point is that there is no such thing as totally objective measurement. Scientists are excited because they're personally involved. So you may say that the process of science is not disinterested inquiry. There's no such thing called raw data. That all data is interpreted data. Because data makes sense only within the framework of theory. So in fact, there is a famous scientist called Kekule, K-E-K-U-L-E. If you do organic chemistry, you have this benzene's carbon ring structure, which is in a hexagonal shape. How did he suddenly come up with the idea of that? This is very foundational to organic chemistry. He was very tired. He couldn't decide what to do. Then one night he fell asleep. And when he fell asleep, he dreamt of a snake around trying to swallow his own tail. And then he woke up and said, "Aha, Eureka! I know how the carbon rings are structured." So in his famous address, he told all his scientific colleagues, "Fellows, let us dream more so that we may have more scientific breakthrough." But the point is, like Karl Popper says, science is not just very systematic, careful, incremental. You may say what constitutes the paradigm change is that this sudden insight. At other times, you are not just asserting a claim. He has the famous book called Conjectures and Refutation. Science is Karl Popper, right? Where you intuitively have a sense that the truth could be like that. You conjecture it with a hypothesis, and then because verification is very difficult to be conclusive, so one way is you falsify it. And so a hypothesis, a theory is standing insofar as all attempts to falsify it has failed. So in that sense, I will say one more. When people talk about science and Christianity and pit science against Christianity, in reality, I think this reflects a view of what they call scientism or scientific naturalism. You know what they say? Anything that cannot be measured by science, anything cannot be certified by science, cannot be true. But in that case, that is very restrictive. Nothing but is the word. Nothing but. You are nothing but a combination of atoms, water, potassium, calcium carbonate. Even in today's inflation market, I can probably buy all your components for less than
very reductionist, right?
For 50 ringgit. You're just nothing. You're 70% water. So the kind of reductionist approach is the problem.
So is the Bible then scientifically reliable?
Let me just say one more item. I think to make it, after all my long talk about science, let's just say scientific explanation is always tentative because you can always change it. If you know the history of science, it's not final. Secondly, scientific truth is always probability. It's not absolute truth. Christianity does not say we are probable truth, you know.
Okay.
So the scientific theories are always tentative, you know. So you notice from Ptolemy to Copernicus, there was a change. From Newtonian science became Einsteinian science. So and so the atomic theory, Bohr's theory, this circular orbit became the Rutherford became Bohr became Schrödinger quantum mechanics stuff. So they're changing all the time. So scientists who thought that though we got the final truth and themselves are ignorant of their own history. So there is room for humility. Then you ask the question about the Bible, libel science. I think when I say the statement, let's be clear, the Bible is not a scientific document. If Moses wrote quantum mechanics, nobody would have understood him, you know. So the Bible was written in common language from the phenomenological point of view, meaning what is observed by the eye. The Bible talks about the sun going around, moving. The sun, I mean, so things like that. The sun rises, the sun sets. So, but some apologists say, oh, if it's God's truth, it must contain all the scientific statement. I think that is not treating the Bible correctly. The main sometimes say people say the science tell you what creation is like, whereas the Bible tells you how to go to heaven. That is too glib because it says the Bible has nothing to do with science. But it's interestingly, even though I don't accept everything those apologists are trying to argue that science is anticipated in certain biblical statements. Job say he hangs the earth like in the globe or something like that, you know, or in Isaiah 40, the circle of the earth, he looks. So I think that might be eisegesis. But interestingly, I find to the extent that the Bible talks about the world has a beginning, which prior to the modern world, the long-standing model has been the eternal universe. That is basically that. But now with the modern science, we have Big Bang.
There's a beginning.
The world has a beginning, you know. Of even though there is a lot of claims of conflict between Bible and evolution, and I lay my cards now by saying at the moment I don't say I believe in evolution, general evolution.
You don't believe?
No. It's a very beautiful theory, but the evidence is not quite conclusive. We can deal with it another round. So, but when you look at the sequence of creation as described in the Bible, there is the general agreement, you know, from what even the theory of evolution is saying, undirected and undirected evolution, meaning that the smaller creatures come first, and then finally human beings appear. You know, so to the extent when you say, okay, while I do not say science is specifically a scientific document, nevertheless,
Bible.
The Bible is not a specific scientific document. But it cannot be the case that the Bible teaches things that are untrue in the light of scientific discovery. So I put it that way. But I think science should inspire the scientists, by the Christian scientists, who will look at science as his vocation, where he has been given the gift and knowledge to discover the greatness and beauty of God's creation. In that sense, science is, but the Christian faith should not be only at the boundaries when we cannot explain things with science, then we throw God into the picture. No, but the Bible should be at the center of the scientific enterprise. We'll come to that when we talk about the origin of modern science.
Not God of the gap, you mean?
Not God of the gap, certainly.
Okay.